Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Penn Vicarage on this Wednesday morning. Well, friends, it's my day off, and I would normally at this time be getting ready to spray little white balls around the Penn countryside. But sadly, the course is closed because it's absolutely throwing it down out there. But anyway, it's good to be here, and I have to think of something else to do, which I'm sure will be good. We'll go for a walk instead or something. And it's good to be alive, and thank you, as I say, for you joining us for our Bible reading for this morning. As we are working our way through the amazing book of Psalms. Now, as I said to you before, the Psalms is the Old Testament hymn book, and it's. But I hope you get the message now that these words are so much more than just a book of songs. Really, in there is every emotion, every kind of feeling. They're incredibly honest. They're incredibly relevant, and they're things that we can buy into. They are just amazing words, and I hope you're finding them really helpful and really relevant. Today's psalm is another beauty. It's Psalm 16. You may recognise the last verse. It's taken out of the when we have funerals, the blessing at the end, the words at the end about pleasures forevermore and so on. That's where the funeral service gets it from, Psalm 16. But anyway, Psalm 16, here goes. It's called a Miktam of David. Protect me, O God, for in you I take refuge. I say to the Lord, you are my Lord. Apart from good, I have no good apart from you. As for the holy ones in the land, they are the noble, in whom is all my delight. Those who choose another God, multiply their sorrows. Their drink offerings of blood I will not pour out, or take their names upon my lips. The Lord is my chosen portion and my cup. You hold my lot. The boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. I have a goodly heritage. I bless the Lord who gives me counsel. In the night also my heart instructs me. I keep the Lord always before me, because he is at my right hand, I shall not be moved. Therefore my heart is glad, and my soul rejoices. My body also shall rest secure. For you do not give me up to Sheol, or let your faithful one to see the pit. You show me the path of life. In your presence there is fullness of joy, and at your right hand are pleasures for evermore. And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So, my friends, the context here is David, and the psalm is really about where David gets his refuge. David is clearly in trouble. He's claiming for protection, and today's psalm is really about where he goes for protection, where he goes for refuge. And let's face it, we all have times in our life, don't we, when times seem difficult, or trouble's coming, or life is difficult or whatever, and we all have times when we seek after refuge. We'll places of safety, places that we go when we're struggling or whatever. And what's quite clear is that here we have David in trouble, and for all David's many faults, and he did have many faults. Actually, one thing he did have was he did have God as his refuge. God was so to speak, the place he went when he was in trouble. So when he was a shepherd out in the field, he went to God for refuge. When he was up against Goliath, it was God in whom he trusted. And throughout his life as a king, and so on later, and also when he coups against him, and every attempt to coup against him, and so on and so on and so on, every time David always went to God for refuge. And what David is saying here is that he's obviously in some kind of trouble. We don't know what, he doesn't say, but he's saying that, protect me, O God, for I turn to you for refuge. That's the first thing he's going to say. Then he acknowledges that people go to other places and other things as well. And you don't need me to tell you that there are people today who seek after God in times of trouble, but often these days there are many people who don't. People who look to other things, other places for refuge. And it doesn't just have to be, other gods that people bow down to. It could be they take refuge in their money, or they could take refuge in their position, or they could take refuge in their reputation, or even certain people, or whatever it may be. But what he's saying here is that other people take refuge in other things. But my refuge is in God, and I delight in other people who have God as their refuge too. And I guess it's a reminder to us, actually, that when times are bad, as well as when times are good, we need to look, God is our refuge. He was David's refuge in time of trouble then, and it's our refuge in times of trouble now. And so what he's saying is other people may choose other things, but I am going to take refuge in God. He goes on to say that when people do look to other things, it won't do them any good, It doesn't help them because their advice is their advice or whatever. But actually, what he's saying, and doesn't necessarily help them. But what he's saying is, in God, God is our refuge, and in Him is good advice. In Him is what is right. So again, like you say, you've got David here who's saying that here I am in troubles. Help me, O God. I come to you for refuge, and I take delight in other people who take you for their refuge too. Other people may look in other directions, and He won't help them. But actually, I look to you in times of trouble. Then he goes on to talk about his lot in life. People say, oh, such is my lot, and this is my lot in life, and so on and so on and so on. And David goes, sort of about verse 5, he gets kind of reflective, the Lord is my portion and my cup, you hold my lot. And he's saying, people talk about my lot in life, or such is my lot in life, or whatever. And he's saying here that the Lord is my lot. My lot in life is God. And he's saying, because God is my lot in life, my boundary lines are fallen in pleasant places, and I have a goodly heritage. So he gets reflective at this point. He's saying, God is my lot in life. But actually, because God is my lot in life, actually, my lot is good. My heritage is goodly, and my boundary lines are fallen in pleasant places. So he's saying here, as I say, that other people look to other things. He's saying, I look to God for my refuge, and because of that, my lot in life is goodly. It's good. Okay, so he gets reflective and saying, God is my lot, but actually, for that reason, my life is good. And he goes on to say a little bit more about why. He says, I bless the who gives me counsel, and at night also my heart instructs me. So he's saying, sometimes when we're in trouble and we need to know what to do, what do I do now? I sort of feel like Dick Dastardly and Muttley do something, What do I do next? And sometimes, what am I going to do next? And he's saying here that the Lord gives him counsel. It's interesting, isn't it, that we call Jesus, what didn't Jesus call himself? The light of the world. The great thing about light, I suppose you can experience it more whilst we're darker now. Actually, light helps you to see the way. Light helps you to know where you're going in life. And he's saying here that in time of trouble, the Lord guides me. The Lord gives me instruction. Jesus said, I am the light of the world. I'm the one who show you your way through life. So he's saying, in time of trouble, I look to the Lord for my refuge. But also, whilst I'm in trouble, and whilst I have my refuge, one of the reasons I can rejoice is because God guides me through these difficult times. That's really important too. So, all in all, you have so far, David is clearly in some degree of trouble. He says, Lord, you are my refuge, okay? And I delight in other people who have you as your refuge too. Other people may look to other things, and ultimately it won't do them any good. But he himself, he looks to God, especially in times of difficulty, okay? He then gets reflective when he says, such is my lot in life. The Lord is my lot in life. And actually, because the Lord is my lot in life, my life is good. And one of the reasons it's good is because in times of difficulty, when I do look to God for guidance, the Lord guides me by day and by night. He's the one that shows me the way. He's the one that shows me through what to do. And we remember Jesus, who is the light of the world. Interesting, though, in the last 2 or 3 verses of this, as I say, the ones we use at the funeral services, it's interesting because there's like a twist at the ends here. If you do not give me up to Sheol, or let your faithful one to see the pit, you show me the path of life. In your presence is fullness of joy, and at your right hand are pleasures forevermore. And there's kind of a suggestion here of resurrection, of life after death. That beyond the death does not have the last word. But and it's widely acknowledged that is in there, that there is there some sense of resurrection, of life after death, that life in the presence of God and so on. But the interesting thing, of course, is that David, who wrote it, didn't get risen from the dead, did he? David did not have the resurrection. David died, like people do. So what's all this resurrection stuff? Well, I think what it's pointing here to, it's sort of prophesying that 700 years from now, David's great, how many great is his grandson, would be born, and he would die, but he would raise from the dead. So David himself wouldn't get resurrected. But the last couple of verses here are suggesting, prophesying, gently prophesying, that one day it will happen, that David's seed, if you like, will eventually be resurrected in the form of Jesus. And that's what is the way to pleasures at the right hand of God and pleasures forevermore. Not in David, because of course he was a man like the rest of us, who died like the rest of us, but in his great, whatever his grandson, in Jesus, he did conquer death, and in him are pleasures, and there are pleasures at the right hand of God forevermore. And that's what that twist at the end is all about. Hope that makes sense. God bless you. Lots to think about there. Psalm 16, feel free to read it again. It's amazing. Have a lovely day. Keep out of the rain. And God bless you. And thank you for watching this morning.